Yo, what's good? Ryan Hodge with FantasyLabs.com here, and week four is officially in the books. So let's spend some time reviewing. I'll kind of show you guys my contest selection, show you what players I was on, show you how I landed on the lineups that I landed on, and how week four went for me. So we'll go to the contest here, take a look under our history. And week four, I booked a loss. It wasn't a big loss. It was I think like 600 bucks or something like that on $2,300 entered. So it could have been worse. Obviously, could have been better for sure. I think the lineup that I probably had the best sweat in was this one in the SPY, 11th place, and had a really strong early showing with guys like Jalen and Gibson and Tyreek Hill and Devonta Smith. All were going early and all were doing really, really well. I actually ended up swapping in this lineup. I also had the Colts going early too, so that left me with my flex, my tight end position, one wide receiver spot, and one running back spot. So that was where I was at, and I actually ended up swapping. This had Chris Carson. This had Robert Woods, and I think Noah Fant, and gosh, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember, but AJ Green was also a swap too. So I ended up swapping to AJ Green, to Trey Sermon, and to Najee Harris. Noah Fant, I kept the same. I thought his ownership would be right around where it was. I was totally fine with that. But because I was doing so well, I was okay playing Sermon, who I thought was in a really, really good spot, but was also going to come in a little bit highly owned. So I ended up swapping back onto him. And look, he touched the ball like 20 times or something ridiculous. So for him to end up with literally exactly 89 rush yards, I think is definitely a bummer. Can't even get to the bonus. He missed all that like 6 minute work. Literally, they had the ball for like 6 minutes straight to end the fourth quarter, and it was all use check. So I don't know. I think we probably got what we what we got with a Shanahan running back, but it is what it is. The Najee Harris, I genuinely couldn't decide between him or Deontay Johnson in this lineup, and it just worked out where I had the salary, and I thought Najee had a pretty good ceiling as well, and was obviously just a better chance for more opportunities, and that's what I was looking for as I was swapping onto this lineup because I really thought I was in a good spot to get a top 1% here and hopefully take this thing down. But 225 ended up winning it with a Darnold stack. They had Debo Samuel going late and absolutely smashed. So clearly that should have been my swap, right? Um, Let me take you over to my lineups here and kind of just show you where I was at. This isn't quite right. I think I had another lineup or two. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was the afternoon slate. Um, but you can see in the power sweeps and a couple of the spies, and then just kind of in some other random stuff. You can take a look at my highest exposed players by buy-ins. David Montgomery, Robert Woods. I swapped a little bit off of Woods, so this isn't quite accurate. I did end up swapping a little bit off of Woods, not a ton, but a little bit. Probably closer to like maybe had like $900 in play on Woods rather than the 1,200. I was pretty high on Arizona and the Bills game, and so you'll see that's where most of my money was as the slate or as the week kind of went on. Obviously, really liked Jalen Hurts a lot as well this week. I just ended up moving a little bit more to a stack that I thought would be lower on, which was this Kyler and Arizona stack, and I think James Conner ended up rushing for like 2 touchdowns, and that's just going to kill your Kyler stuff, even though they dropped like 40 points or whatever. He definitely needs those touchdowns to go his way in order for him to have a great game. Same thing with his pass catchers. When James Conner is rushing in 2 rushing touchdowns, that Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, whoever it might be, AJ Green, are not getting theirs with those massive touchdowns. So that game didn't quite pan out. Very, very high on David Montgomery. Javante Williams, I honestly don't even know how I landed up. I think it was 5K, and I didn't want to play Trey Sermon. You'll also see I played Trey Sermon. I probably should have just had more CEH. than Jamal Williams. A little bit of Jonathan Taylor here, who I thought was in a good spot. I was kind of spread out at running back a little bit more than I am most weeks. I just thought that there were a lot of usable options, that were around 6K or cheaper. David Montgomery was definitely my favorite of the bunch, so ran hot with him. Wide receiver Robert Woods was definitely one of the guys who I wrote up. Derrick Henry, DJ Moore, Jalen Reagor, and Devonta Smith, and Robert Woods. I actually thought I focused on Devonta Smith. Oops. Um, Robert Woods, Noah Fant, those were all my core plays. And, I think Robert Woods got there at the end. We sucked out a little bit. Brandon Cooks was a guy who I loved to bring back in that Houston game. I wasn't really worried about like him not getting there because of blowout, although I guess that's exactly what happened. I don't even know what his market share of targets looked like in that game, but I know headed into the week, he was like third on the slate in targets, in air yards per target, and he just had all these good outlying metrics that I thought made a great play to bring back with Josh Allen stack. And don't even get me started about how bad I think we ran. For those of you who stacked the Bills with me, I mean, they had like 8 red zone possessions, and I'm not even talking about just like in the 20. I'm talking about like in the 5 and 10. They had like 8 or something absurd. I don't know, maybe that's high, but I do think it was like 6 or 7, and they kicked a field goal like half of those times. And then Moss runs one in. So like, I don't know. I think we ran a little bit bad there for a team who's passing at an extremely high rate. I was not concerned about blowout, and I just think they put up the points. I just think we ran a little bit bad. That's for sure. Um, the Javante Williams stuff, this is donkey. I genuinely like. I don't know if I got caught up on coach speak or what it was, but there's no way that I should have had this much Javante Williams headed into the slate. I honestly don't know. I don't have a good explanation for you guys. I don't have some super sharp take. This was just a play where I thought that the game might run a little bit quicker, and he could definitely get more involved. And so on teams where I didn't have Fant, I ended up with a little bit of Javante Williams. So um, not enough more. I don't know how I didn't end up on more DJ Moore. He was a guy who I loved. I think I was just having a hard time getting there once I started, because I did. I had a ton of him. I probably had like $800 worth of him, maybe even closer to 1,000, like Saturday. And then Sunday rolls around and I start moving to all these Kyler teams, which were expensive, right? Using Kyler and Cup and Woods, or Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins and Woods and like Higbee, and like trying to do these full onslaughts of this game because I thought it was just in a really good environment and a great spot. I just ended up like DJ Moore was the guy who, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been somebody else. I genuinely don't know how I did that, but I did, and I'm not overly stoked about that at all. So that was a weird one for me because he was a guy who I was talking about, a guy who I was on, and somehow ended up with like more Terry McLaurin and Cooper Cup, which the Cooper Cup stuff makes sense, and I think that's what it was. I think I had to get to Cup, um, and it ended up being DJ Moore who's had to come out of my lineup. So tight end, I kind of stuck with the good plays. Other than Cole Kmet, I thought he was in a fine spot. Conklin, I thought, was in a fine spot. A lot of Fant, a little bit of Kelsey. I thought Ingram was in a much better spot as well with some of the injuries there. Dawson Knox was pure Josh Allen, luck box, and then Tyler Higbee and TJ Hawkinson. And then I think Logan Thomas was probably my one, like, I've got a Taylor Heinicke lineup in here somewhere. Yeah. So I think it was my Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin. This lineup was almost good until it wasn't. Deontay Johnson in that one. I honestly, I thought anyone playing the Falcons is always going to be in a somewhat of a good spot. So the lineup just didn't quite come together. And that was kind of the story of my week, is my lineups just didn't quite come together. I felt like I had a lot of good pieces. I felt like my process was fine, other than the Javante Williams stuff. I just it was like a pure, I don't want to play Trey Sermon, so I'm playing this $5,000 running back who might see, 14 touches if I'm lucky and he's talented. Like that's honestly was my thought process. It's very, very bad. Don't do that. So take a look at some of the pros here and see what they did. The Chipotle Bros with Papa Gates and Chipotle Addict here. It's like they had a good week in the Wildcat, shipping it with Sam Darnold. I mean, this lineup is absolutely insane. Look at, he had Deebo Samuel too. I mean, run hotter. Wow. Deebo, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, David Montgomery, Sam Darnold. Brought his Sam Darnold stack back with Cooper. I thought that was pretty common for people to do. And here's a Patty Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. Wow. I'm seeing people do this, like specifically with the Chiefs, and they're not bringing their Chiefs stacks back. And I know why. I don't understand it though. Like historically, the Chiefs have just been not very friendly to opposing teams' wide receivers, but I think we've seen that like stacking you should be game stacking. I mean, playing Devonta Smith here, I think is totally fine. Um, he definitely had the salary for it with Najee. I mean, he obviously could have done it. It's kind of a strange one. So I'm seeing more and more pros not they're just using the Kansas City side of the ball. Um, and I don't know if it's, look, it's got to be sharp. I mean, these guys literally have seven figures on, throughout multiple sites on a Sunday. So like there's got to be some weight to it. It seems very strange to me. I thought Devontae Smith was in a fine spot, or I even thought Rager was in a great spot too. Obviously, he didn't work out, but I don't know. I mean, I think Goddard was. Let me find out how much Goddard was. How many of him? Let's go see how much Goddard was, because I'm curious if he could have at least just used Goddard in that lineup, or Ertz, like somebody at the tight end position. Okay, so 3,500 for Ertz, he definitely had. And Dallas Goddard, I think, was more than yeah, so 4,800. So like they definitely could have used Goddard here too. I mean, just depends with the Najee stuff, right? All I'm saying is they had the salary to do it and chose they were very specific to not. They made a very clear cut decision to not play Devontae Smith or one of the tight ends, or even Rager, who was a little bit less expensive as well. And that was so they could have Najee, but like they clearly could have done it. They made a very conscious choice not to. Obviously, I'm not saying they just like got onto this lineup and they didn't think about it. They obviously thought about their lineup. I just meant like it was very clear that they chose to not bring it back. Is this a naked Jalen lineup? I think that is so dumb. What are they doing? How do you not have? Doesn't I don't I this doesn't make any sense to me that you don't have Ertz, Goddard, Jalen, or Devonta Smith brought back. I mean, literally three out of those four options all worked out too. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like people are fading opposing pass catchers against Kansas City. It's very, very strange. Here's a Heineke stack. Like here's a full onslaught. Like this lineup makes so much more sense than these two to me. This no bring back here and not even using the pass catcher is just absolutely absurd. Another Carolina. It's a full onslaught with Cooper and running back for Sam Darnold too. So those lineups make a little bit more sense. I think the onslaughts aren't as good in something as big as like 5,000 or 4,000 entries here. I think they're much better in like 500 or 1,000 entries where you can actually play like two of the pass catchers or maybe a pass catcher and a pass catching running back, with a quarterback. I just think you have to be a little bit more perfect to really get up there, but you are capturing a lot of upside. So it doesn't look like they're doing it in every lineup either. And I know obviously these two guys, plan their lineups together and play with a little bit of overlap. So it's kind of tough to analyze their lineups specifically. But like, let's take a look at Wakey Wakey, who's another good player. Jalen, Devonta, thank you, finally. Jalen, Devonta Smith, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, that was a pretty good combination. You're definitely in a hashtag good spot headed into the late slate if you kind of started out there. Darnell Mooney, this was one that I struggled with, and it was one that I struggled with because he kept showing up in my player rater, in my player ratings right here as a wide receiver. And this was something I was just building for 20 max, and I ended up taking him out like such a donkey. Like, why do I build this model? And then just like, nope, I don't want this one cheap wide receiver. Like, so dumb. This is why we have models at Fantasy Labs, is so it can help us recognize plays like this. I mean, obviously, there's going to be plays that don't work, right? Like Jalen Reagor. But I mean, even look at Deebo Samuel up here in the model. It's just out of control. I ended up obviously with a little bit of him, but not enough. Corey Davis had a good week. It's just insane. This is exactly why we have models at Fantasy Labs. So it looks like Wiki Wiki doing what he should here with the full stacks. Zach Wilson, Corey Davis bringing it back as well with Derrick Henry. But the Jalen, Devonta, he had some Brandon Cooks there. Did he have a mini correlation with them? He did not. He just liked the Cook side of that ball. So, yeah, guys, I think that kind of sums up the week 4 in review. A little bit of a longer one this week, but I missed y'all last week. I was out sick, so glad to be back. And with that, I'll see you in the next one, guys, and run good in week 5. Peace.